Oh, is that
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here. Josh has just flown in for this session, and then he's going to be flying out. I think a good way to know someone is to read their Twitter feed and to read their Twitter bio. So that's what I'm going to do out right now, so that you know a little bit about him.
Coffee this morning.
He's general partner at NEA, and he's chairman of Explora Med and a professor at Stanford University School of Medicine. And that just gives you a sliver of his background, and that's why I know we all have these brochures. Please look through his incredible background. More than 300 patents, an MBA from Columbia, a medical degree from NYU. He's got a bachelor's from MIT. It's an incredible background, and all of that is very relevant to what he's doing now, thinking about the future of medicine. And from his perch in Silicon Valley is going to be very important for our conversation here today. We only have a few minutes, but we want to get his take on where things are going and get lots of ideas for the folks in the room who are looking to make investments or are doing your own business. So let's start with the conversation we just saw, the presentation. What's your take on bioelectronics?
Absolutely. First, I want to thank Northwell. I want to thank Kevin. I really think what you all are doing is fantastic, and that's why we're very proud to be investors in SetPoint, which Kevin mentioned, which is the company developing the stimulation platform, the digital platform that David Chernoff mentioned this morning. We are big believers in that methodology and that technology, and I think it's going to have a huge impact. It's really Kevin is truly the leader and the innovator in the space that brought all of our attention to the fact that the nervous system has a tremendous impact on fundamental organic responses to disease, and may in fact be responsible for some of these diseases. And it stands to stands up to the science, and so we're thrilled. I think it's going to be huge, and from an NEA standpoint, this is exactly the type of platform that we're excited about investing in.
Give us a sense of some of the other things you're investing in, have invested, and doing now.
Yeah. So I'm, NEA is a almost 40-year-old, actually 40-year-old. I think this is our anniversary this year. Venture fund, one of the oldest and largest in the country. We have a broad investment practice that covers all of tech, including consumer and software and et cetera, but about a third of the practice is dedicated to healthcare. So out of the last fund, so we have about $21 billion under management, and the last fund was $3.3 billion, and a third of that is dedicated to healthcare. Within that $1.3 billion or so is biotech, pharma, specialty pharma, services, digital health, but the sector that I'm responsible for is medical technology, both traditional medical device technology as well as consumer-facing medical technologies.
And give us some of the brands that we know.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. There's some of the examples of the types of stuff that we have, innovated and created, and that NEA has been a big supporter of. We recently transacted a company called NeoTract, which is the first truly minimally invasive and durable approach towards benign prostatic hypertrophy. And that technology is being widely distributed across the world right now, and was purchased by Teleflex for about $1.1 billion last year. But we also invest in things like the Willow wearable breast pump for moms, and this is the first completely wearable, concealable breast pump that has been created to allow moms to, do what they need to do wherever they need to do it, and not to be, sort of in a room by themselves, away from everything that's going on, and they can pump in public and be walking down the street or doing whatever, carrying their children or at work or whatever they're doing. And so, we really like to get involved with transformational technologies that are going to change people's lives. And so, there's both ends of the spectrum, from a surgical approach to something that is available, online and as a consumer.
And I see you tweeted about it, so
Yeah.
it's at Willow Pump. You can see the tweets he sent, and he's, by the way, Josh at NEA, JOSHATNEA. Let's get him more followers, folks. If you'll follow him right now,
I need
I'm
more
sure
followers.
He'll be tweeting a lot more, and I see people are following you today. What are some of the ways in which you decide that this medical technology that's come in front of you is appropriate for you to bet on versus not? And do you see them as bets?
Yes. I mean, you're always taking risk. I think the opportunity has to be big enough. That's fundamentally one of the things that that's the first cut, I'd say.
So big meaning, give us
big like billions. Big like billions.
Okay.
Big like millions of people impacted.
And that's because of your philosophy? It's because that's only worth putting that effort into?
Well, both. I mean, I guess, look, I've been working with NEA as an entrepreneur for most of the time. I have only been on the investing side for the last 3 years. So before that, I was an entrepreneur creating medical technology companies and consumer technology companies. But I've always been aligned with NEA's strategy for slightly different reasons. NEA has a large capital base, and therefore they just can't invest in small things, even as worthy as they might be. It just doesn't create enough turn for them, and their duty is to their investors to be able to make the return and preserve that asset class, right? For me, as an innovator and a physician, I want to make a difference, and so where I wind up being aligned with NEA is that what better place than a big platform like NEA to make a big difference. So while I have empathy and I want to see all of these technologies that help people get there, the ones that really get me going and that I'm very excited about are the ones that have broad worldwide global impact of massive scale.
So that's one big criteria. What are a couple of others?
The next criteria is the people. People make it happen. And when we see a qualified, Dave Shernoff being a good example, the Chief Medical Officer of SetPoint, folks like that are what make these things happen. These are very complex and multifaceted projects that require a tremendous amount of competence and capability. And so, when we see people with passion, integrity, and the willingness to take that risk and make things happen, that's what we bet on. And that's really beyond that, it's just sort of, those are the two things that make the whole thing work.
What is something that without naming the company, what's something that has been in front of you and you've said no because? What are some lessons we could learn from the things you've said no to?
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, I have. This has been a very frustrating experience to be on the investing side.
The other side.
Because I've seen literally in the last 3 years 1,400 projects, new projects.
Wow.
A few of those folks have actually come back more than once. So do the math. It's a lot of stuff. And what's frustrating is to have to say no that often. Is like I'm the optimistic, can do, always. That's my personality, and I find myself like saying no 99.9% of the time, and it really sucks. It really does. But I've come to realize that just like in any ecosystem, there are the big fish that eat the slightly smaller fish, but they don't eat the very tiny, plankton. And then there's there's the angels that do the plant. So there's all different levels. And so we're in this class, and we can eat these fish over here, but even though the sea is full of lots of fish of all different sizes, there's only certain ones that we can actually do that actually make sense for us to eat, if that analogy holds up. You get it. So there's been a lot of things. It's either too small or too, which is mostly the problem, because most medical devices, within the realm of successful medical device company exits, we're talking about an average of 200 million, like total asset value. That doesn't. Considering that we wouldn't own 100% of that, we'd probably own 20%. Doesn't even move the needle for NEA. So sadly, the vast majority of, in my space, the vast majority of things that actually do come across the radar are not fits for me. SetPoint being a good example of something that steps aside from that. This is a good example of a huge platform that has multiple plays into various facets of disease and could be, as a standalone company, truly a multi-billion-dollar company, and that's the ones that we go after.
Just so that we have a sense of scale, out of the 1,400 or so you've seen, how
Yeah.
many did you actually bet on? If you
About 12.
Well, okay, so that makes it very clear. I'm in the middle of reading this incredible book, Bad Blood, by John Carreyrou, about Theranos.
Yes.
And there may be people in the room who've invested and all of that, but what are the lessons from the Theranos story about a medical device that seemed too good to be true, but people still put in so much money, effort, energy? Just talk a little bit about
it's an ongoing legal process there, and I'm obviously known Elizabeth, and I feel very bad for all the people involved. I think and what's written, I have no way of independently verifying the truth of it, so I can comment on the story if it were true, but I can't verify if it was. But I think that what's really important for all of us as scientists and in industry and whatever we're doing is to be truthful about what's real. And what's sad about that story is, if it's true, that's a very bad example of behavior that I hope does not make people think that us as sort of in this community, in this room here, this is not acceptable. It's and to a certain extent, there's it's wrong. I mean, it is wrong in any extent, I should say. There's no extent that would be verifying or validating it. What I would say, as an entrepreneur, there's things that are conflated alongside all the lies that I think are brought in as part of that picture that are cast somewhat negatively, but that I feel are very unfortunate. Great to have an opportunity to mention this, because I wonder whether other people feel the same thing. But there's a core of lies there that's wrong. It's illegal, probably criminal. It's just that let's just set that aside. But a lot of the stuff about having the right people on the bus who believe and whoever doesn't believe, get off the bus. That's actually the way you do it in a startup. I mean, so there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, when we are trying to do something that has never been done before, you can't have a bunch of people going, "Oh, that's never going to work," sitting around on the bus. It's like if that's what they think, get off the bus. We're going this direction. That's somehow conflated with this whole thing with the lies, and that's what's unfortunate. It's that behavior of the hiring and firing and being aggressive about believers and non-believers. I actually think that is actually a good thing about Silicon Valley and how we have made change that has been believed to not be possible. So that unfortunately is sort of weaved into that story, and I'm hoping that people can separate the two and realize that there's a fundamental core there that is absolutely wrong and should never have happened. But there's a lot of other stuff that's talked about that's sort of attached to it that actually is right about how to lead an early stage business.
And I think that's a great point, especially in the field that you're in. You're trying to change the world, and is there hope for things, just that particular category, that people will fund it? Or where people will be too skittish because the next person, about the
diagnostics,
and that particular.
Yes. There's lots of diagnostic. I think absolutely, and here's the good thing about Silicon Valley, is that there's an effervescent, completely renewable source of enthusiasm that does not seem to be brought down by just about anything. It's amazing, even in the face of tremendous and colossal failure, you will find people willing to just start up again. And in fact, there's still some people trying to resurrect Theranos, believe it or not, but we're not going to invest in that.
So we have about a minute.
On the record there.
Breaking news, you're not investing in the new version. But we have about a minute left. What are some practical things people in the room should know about pitching you, apart from the things we already talked about, and thinking about this category in general? And what are things in New York that we don't know about Silicon Valley that we should?
I mean, look, I think Look, there's tremendous opportunity to make a huge difference in healthcare via the venture-backed system. If you've got a project that's going to change the world and going to be big, I would love to hear it. And so I'm easy to get. My email's on the website at NEA, NEA.com, and please reach out. And we want to work with entrepreneurs that want to change the world and have great ideas. And that's why we're so thrilled to be a part of working with Kevin in Northwell and Set Point. And so it's been a good ride, and I see a great future for many more like that.
That's terrific, and I love his optimism. I think that's really important. And I want you to write an article about the fish and who's allowed to eat what in what category.
All right,
Please say thank you to this awesome shark right here.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Can we get a picture?
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, let's do it.